wanted to thank y'all for coming on board here today, and I apologize that I'm unable to.
You are now muted.
That I'm basically unable to get the screen share to work. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than that. Here I set up a pretty nice PowerPoint for you guys to follow along with, but I'm going to have to end up doing this the old-fashioned way and talk through without having my my visual aid. But that's okay. We'll do this anyway. So basically, here we go. I wanted to thank you all for coming to the town hall meeting. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and I'll also be sure to pass this along to you all. So I will forward along to all the people that showed up the PDF. So I'll get your emails and I'll send this off so you can take a look at what we're going to talk about yourself and recap, and I'll also take the video so that you're able to follow along. I'll put it up on YouTube later as well. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some general issues that are happening within the veterans arena. A lot of you may or may not have heard that the sequestration is in effect, and there may be some problems as a result of that being in place with respect to our veterans benefits. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the Gulf War hearing that just occurred yesterday, which is breaking news. All kinds of hell broke loose. It was really an interesting thing to watch. So we're going to talk about the Gulf War hearing. We're going to talk about the GI Bill hearing on that. We're going to talk about the $100 million conference scandal from the VA last year. And we're also going to talk about the VA and how it's been spying on veterans in veteran health centers. So it's something a lot of veterans don't know. I didn't know about it until I saw it in a hearing in September. And I wanted to relay that to all of you. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit about using social media and how that can actually help you with respect to the type of benefits that you're looking for. And you may not know this now, but social media itself can really help you not only finding information that you want, but also garnering support from individuals that in turn you can bring to Congress and hopefully get Congress to maybe take some action on your particular issue. And then last, we'll also talk about, the big part, which is Q&A. As promised, I want to make sure that I get to your questions, and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. I'm going to hit on emailed questions first, and then secondly, I'm going to hit on live questions that you asked me here that I see within the Q&A box at the top of your screen, and also the chat section. So if you guys end up hitting up a bunch of chat topics, I'll be sure to check those out as we go along and answer your questions the best that I can. So once we get close to that section, I'll give you a heads up about when we're getting into the Q&A. I see your question here. Is it Yoletta? I think that's what your name is, Yoletta. Anyway, I'll get to these questions, start chiming in, and it'll be in about 5 minutes once I hit all these other issues. But to give you an idea of some of the questions we're going to be talking about, I'm going to read these off to you. Again, there's a PowerPoint with these on them. I'm sorry that you can't see the PowerPoint because the screen share is not working. But nonetheless, this is what we're going to talk about as far as the Q&A goes. How will sequestration impact your benefits? That's question one. And then the second section is going to be voc rehab questions. So how do I use voc rehab twice, even if it's years apart? How do I use voc rehab after being, quote, unquote, out of the military after or greater than 12 years? How do I get a serious employment handicap? Will voc rehab pay for classes when you fail? How do you deal with a voc rehab counselor when you cannot get them on the phone? How do you get $15,000 in software for school? Under disability, one veteran wrote in, how do you research documents that are missing? I'm going to include that as well. And then following that is another question about education. How do I get extra money for school beyond the GI Bill? So I thought these were some pretty good questions I wanted to touch on. So first of all, I wanted to orient you all as to what the VA is doing with respect to Gulf War and how that might impact pretty much all of us. So yesterday, March 13th, there was a hearing. One veteran, a Gulf War veteran in particular, was able to testify there. His name is Anthony Hardy. He's in a Facebook group called Gulf War Veterans, I believe. he totally kicked ass. He actually was the most articulate person on the stand, and probably, I think, the only veteran who was testifying yesterday. Dr. Stephen Coughlin is a whistleblower within the VA. He named names and basically said that the VA not only is misusing the money that was supposed to go towards investigating Gulf War syndrome, but that he also experienced situations where there was, fraud, cover-ups within the data, and the VA is essentially not releasing information that would help veterans if it's going to cost the VA more money. So I think it's important to relay that all of you so that you understand that if you happen to be within this Gulf War veteran era, or even, Vietnam era, very similar, the VA is actively covering up the money, not only where the money is going, I should say, for these investigations that they're supposed to have, but when the information runs against their internal policies, they do not publish it. So I think it's extremely important to point that out. And lastly, and one of the things I'm going to be hitting on quite a bit over the next couple minutes, is that Congress did not swear in the VA officials who were testifying, and I think that's a big issue, and that's why we're not getting a lot done when Congress has these kinds of hearings. They don't make Congress won't make the VA swear in, therefore it allows the VA to be a little loose with the lips and lie to Congress, and in turn Congress has really no ability to deal with that. Meanwhile, if you are a pro athlete and you happen to, let's say, use steroids, well, by God, if Congress investigates it, they're going to make you swear in because they think that you might lie, more so than the VA, and I find that to be appalling. It's one of the things that really has been pissing me off lately. So then the next thing I wanted to talk about is the GI Bill hearing, which was held February 13th of 2013. There, they wanted to find out why the GI Bill software platform had failed. The platform itself, it hasn't failed, but it only works halfway. So since 2008, the VA has been working on a new software platform so that veterans would be able to, get their claims processed a little bit quicker. The initial cost was $130 million. Now, 5 years later, the current cost is $263 million, and it's not done. Less than 50% of all GI Bill claims are automated, and there is no plan to finish the project or to even work on it further in 2013. All the money is supposedly going towards veterans' benefits and the disability compensation platform, and not the GI Bill. So for the next at least year, the GI Bill, nothing's going to happen to it. It's going to be broke thick. It's going to continue to be broke thick. Oh, I saw that. Yeah, the Camp Lejeune issue. Yeah, it's another mess. And so again, with the GI Bill, they're just pissing money down a rat hole. I ended up getting some good clips for this on the website, disabledveterans.org. Check it out. I just put those up 2 days ago because the VA had gone back on the GI Bill issue and started bragging about how half of the claims are working. And I just can't figure out what kind of a delusional individual would brag about being half right. Like, to me, that seems insane, but that's what they're doing. And yeah, Glenn, I agree with you. It seems like that's what's going on. They're sending money off to their friends or something. Anyway, during the GI Bill hearing in February, another theme I'm going to talk about, Congress didn't swear in the VA again, so we don't know if they were telling the truth or not. Odds are that they were not telling the truth. Another hearing is with reference to the conference gate, is what I call it. In November 28th of 2012, the VA had a conference where they were caught overspending their conference budget by $80 million the year previous. And they were saying it's a Bellagio and overseas and, really jet setting. Congress investigated. They didn't make the VA swear in. And, again, we ended up with a whole hell of a lot of lies with respect to the investigation, and the VA is not giving information over to Congress. They just don't seem to give a shit about the law. They don't seem to care about veterans. I'm not really sure what the VA is doing right now as far as its management. I know there are a lot of good people on the lower end of the VA, but in upper management, there's really There's no veterans, it seems. I mean, and the ones that are there are old school politicians and bureaucrats. So they're used to playing the game and not actually looking out for the people they're supposed to look out for. So that's my 2 cents on that. Then we have VA spying. And that's another issue that came up in another hearing on September 20th, 2012. The VA admitted that it has been spying on veterans in general. In this particular instance, it was in Florida in Congressman Jeff Miller's district, I believe. The VA admitted to hiding a camera inside of a fire alarm so it could spy on a veteran. It didn't give that veteran notice. And in that particular incident, VA Healthcare had previously harmed the veteran. They were likely going to sue the VA on malpractice. And in response, the VA decided to violate their constitutional rights and spied on them through putting a camera in the fire alarm. So in that instance, the VA denied any wrongdoing or even violating the Constitution. Again, during that hearing, the VA was not sworn in prior to giving testimony. So again, we just don't really know. We don't really know what's going on with Congress, other than that Congress in the 1980s stopped swearing in the Department of Veterans Affairs, so that I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why they stopped doing that. But ever since then, of course, we have a VA that seems to be going down the toilet quite quickly. So who really knows exactly what's going on? Now, I wanted to talk very briefly about social media and how you guys can use it. Now, as we know, there are tons of veterans groups popping up everywhere on Facebook. This is actually somewhat of a good thing because, for example, veterans with sexual trauma issues, for instance, are able to have a special group that's private, and individuals there who have been sexually assaulted in the military are able to talk with each other in an area that's at least somewhat private. There is a repost trick that I wanted to mention to you guys, that if you happen to find an article or other thing that you find to be interesting and you want to spread it to whomever you want, you can actually take that link or a copy of the URL and go to Facebook sites like the New York Times or Washington Post, something like that, and you can actually post that within one of the comment trains. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to spread the word of a particular veteran issue in a forum where maybe it's not necessarily normally talked about. So you can do that with like Huffington Post, military.com, all these good ones. And if you find an article that you think that the people that read that particular Facebook page might find useful, you can copy that URL in any of the comment trains and get the word out even more so than you're already doing. So there's also Google Plus, which I'm still learning how to do, but I think as a result of today and kind of my frustration with this service provider, I am probably going to move over to using Google Plus and its what's called a Hangout. So it allows veterans or whoever actually has an account to hold webinars kind of like this, but it allows 9 people to get on there. Everyone can do screen share. The meeting sizes are smaller, and you're able to, talk a little bit more. So I think I'm going to move to Tamara. What did you think of it when you used it? I see what your comments about there. Do you like it? The Google Plus Hangout? What do you think? Well, anyway, let me know right in there. I'd appreciate your input on that. So I'm probably going to start using that a little bit more, so that way we can get more of these kind of veteran town hall meetings moving. I want to do this more often to find out from you guys, what's going on and what some of the issues are within the veteran arena. So without any other delay, I wanted to get to the question so that we can really cut to the chase of why everyone's here. The first question is, how will sequestration impact benefits? I think this is an important question. Last year, Congress said that sequestration won't affect veterans' benefits. That's actually a lie. It seems like what they are doing is they're cutting on programs like the GI Bill software program or the Veterans Benefits Platform. So the spending on these types of programs that are supposed to help us get our benefits, they're not going to get money anymore. When it comes to administration of benefits, so people that manage your disability claim, things like that, they are going to be cut back. So that means that we're going to get less help and less adjudication, and that means we'll have a growth of our disability backlog. So that pretty much sucks. No, the VA is they're trying to get the VA budget so that it is set in advance, a year in advance, but that has not happened yet. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. As far as our budget, I know that Congressman Michaud from the House Committee on Veterans Affairs wants to set that up, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen or if it's even realistic. So just know sequestration is going to fuck us. It's just the way it is. We're going to have to start fighting for our benefits again. I think the good old days are over, and that's usually what happens. When you're in war, everyone's rah-rah veteran, and then when you're not in war anymore, nobody cares. So we have to get used to nobody caring. It's just going to be the way it is, and that means we all have to fight a little bit harder and work together in areas of like social media, writing Congress, stuff like that. We're just going to have to be more proactive. So 2 questions about Voc Rehab. The first question is how to use Voc Rehab twice, even if years apart. So this is could be kind of a tricky thing. I just had a veteran write in about this a little while ago. He used Voc Rehab in 2004 and wanted to use it again because he is having kind of an exacerbation, or his disability is actually getting a little bit worse. So he needs something that's a little bit more or less physical. And so what he's going to do is he's going to reapply. Odds are, because his disability has gotten worse, in his particular situation, he'll probably get back in for additional training. Now, one of the things the veterans are told that is a myth is that you are always limited to 48 months when it comes to your educational benefits. That's not actually true when it comes to veterans who have serious employment handicaps or, just essentially a serious disability. And when I say serious, I mean more of not so much that you're in a wheelchair, but that your rating is maybe over 40% and it affects a major body part. So like in my situation, I have a bad back. So for that reason, I was able to get deemed to have a serious employment handicap. Once that happens, it triggers your ability to get more than 48 months. And so for me, the VA paid for my undergrad, and they're paying for me in law school as well. So total, I'll get about 80 to 85 months of educational benefits when it's all said and done. I know of veterans who've gotten even more than that through the PhD program or whatever you want. I know some folks who even got their undergrad and then had the VA pay for them to start a business. So there's a lot of different types of options. You just have to really make sure that you stay on top of your case and be proactive about it. So the next question is, let's see here. Usually the vet, okay, so there's a kind of a rumor going around that you can only use Voc Rehab within 12 years of getting out of the military. That's not actually true. The 12-year component starts when you first get a qualifying disability. So that means that your disability had to qualify you for Voc Rehab at that time. And then at that moment, that's when the clock ticks. So 12 years from that point, usually, that's when you, let's see here, Yelka, you said I was not told about the money given to start. Oh, okay, I'll get into that in a second about the business thing. So basically, the 12-year window starts at that point. The 12-year window, however, goes away if you have a serious employment handicap again. So that allows you, like let's say you used it 12 years ago, 20 years ago. If your disability is upgraded and it changes your situation, then suddenly, you get kind of a new lease with life, so to speak, and then you can get back in and do some other things, whether it be, again, starting a business or something else. So the next question is, will Voc Rehab pay for classes that you fail? The answer is they don't have to. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. However, it just really depends. So in that situation, it behooves you to be really nice to your counselor, kiss them ass, and then try to get them to see that if you have to pay that class out of your pocket, that it'll put you into some kind of hardship, and ask them to basically punt the Red Sea for you and not make you pay back. It works for some veterans, other veterans it doesn't work. So it really depends on your relationship with the counselor and how proactive you were with the counselor to try to alert them to the fact that you were doing bad in the class. So it really just depends. Now, the next question is how to deal with a rehab counselor that will not get on the phone with you. This happens a lot where the counselor will ignore you and you won't be able to actually get them on the phone or get them to respond to you for a very long time. That's actually against the ethics rules for vocational rehabilitation counselors nationally. So what that means is there's a program, something like the Commission of Rehab Counselors, that has a separate licensure and a separate program where they hold counselors accountable outside of the VA. So if you're within the VA, usually those folks are like above the law team. But when it comes to their licensure that they get from a civilian non-VA party, you can actually make an ethics complaint and get your counselor fired if they do not contact you, because having that license is an important part of their ability to work. If they lose their license, they can't work as rehab counselors anymore. So it's a good way to hold your counselor accountable if they're not doing their job. So then the next question is how to, and as far as getting your counselor on the phone, another solution could be to send them a letter via certified mail to both of them and their boss. Send it certified mail with return receipt. That can allow you to document that they not only got the letter, but that it was within a certain window. And if they don't contact you again, then you definitely have grounds to make an ethics complaint to the CRCC. So if you Google or search for CRCC, it's based, I think, out of Schaumburg, Illinois. If you put in CRCC in the search bar, it should come up. And then you can file an ethics complaint from there. The next question is, how do I get $15,000 for software for school? Good question. This depends on the type of degree that you are in. If you happen to, let's say, get the VA to approve for you to attend a school or a type of curriculum that requires that type of thing, then you have a higher chance than not of getting them to approve it. So in other words, if I get approved for, let's say it's recording or something like this, I know that nowadays this is kind of a degree that people can get. So let's say I get approved, VA says, yes, you can go be a studio person. Well, you may be able to get the VA in turn to pay for your studio equipment and all the other things that are required for that schoolwork. Likewise, if you're approved for, let's say, videography, what else, photography maybe, some of these different types of careers within college, if you look and see what the college requires in order for you to attend, then you may be able to get the VA to foot the bill for that because it's required. So the trick is to make sure that you get your professor or the dean of students, whoever it is, to approve or write down basically the fact that you need the software. When you do that, then you'll be able to give your counselor enough ammo so that they can get approved to give you the software that you need. So it's a kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but it usually works. The next question is disability related. So how do you research documents when they're missing from your file? So I just had a veteran write to me about his entire medical records being gone. So the VA, he's a Vietnam era veteran, and the VA lost all of his documentation. The question is, then if the VA lost the documentation, how can you get it back? And so if the documentation is truly lost, which I sometimes doubt, but if it is lost, what you can do is you can look for alternative areas within which to document your situation. So that could mean, let's say if they're denying the fact that you were in Vietnam, let's say, which happens to some people, you can look for letters that you had sent when you were in theater or letters that you received while you were in theater that would have a Vietnam stamp on it and a Vietnam location, for example, and that can be enough to trigger your proof, or photos. That's another example. If you happen to have buddy letters are okay. The problem with buddy letters is that the VA likes to not include them, which kind of pisses me off because they're supposed to include lay evidence. The VA tries to avoid doing that. They've been called out on the carpet a few times by, I think it was Judge Lance from the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. And basically when it comes to buddy letters, the trick, and it is really a trick, is to not try to diagnose what the injury was, if that's the purpose of the buddy letter, to like document an injury that you had. What you want it for is for your buddy to give lay evidence about your injury. And so a layperson can give a diagnosis of, let's say that I'm your buddy and I saw you break your leg and I saw your whole leg like twist. Well, I can testify to that. However, I can't testify to an internal injury that isn't readily like visible from a lay perspective. And what they usually say is that since you're a layperson, that you're not qualified to provide insight into that type of issue, and then they disregard your lay statement altogether. So you have to be kind of careful. I think the trick is to point out that, you know, you're in pain or whatever, and to have your buddies recall that there was a moment that you were in pain or very sick. But the second that they start talking about the specifics of your injury, so like let's say I was sick and my friend knew that I was in the bunk for, you know, a week because I was sicker than hell. Well, if they try to say something like, oh yeah, he had pneumonia, the VA will likely disregard what he says. If the person just says, yeah, he was sick and he was coughing up phlegm, well, that's different, and they'll probably be okay with it. So those are kind of the tricks with lay statements. Otherwise, when it comes to researching documents, there are like congressional records, old media is another way. It really depends on what the issue is that you're trying to document. If you're trying to document whether or not your unit was in country, that could be easy to find if you go through different records and different like media releases. So it really depends. The National Archive could have information that might help. You know, it's just one of those things. Now, the next question is, education, how do I get extra money for school beyond the GI Bill or beyond voc rehab? That's a good question. The easiest thing, of course, is to fill out your FAFSA. If you're getting your undergrad, you should be able to qualify for a Pell Grant and for what used to be called the SEOG. So it was like an augmented like Pell Grant. Then there's work study is another one. So for me, I ended up getting an SEOG grant as well as Pell Grant in my undergrad. So that meant that I got an extra, I think back then it was like $4,500 from each. It was an extra $9,000 a year in school. That was grant money, didn't have to pay back. Then the other areas are Stafford loan, Perkins loan, other types of loans, depending on what you're going to school for. I wouldn't use those if I could do it over again, unless I absolutely had to. Of course, now I got to pay all my stuff back now that I'm done with law school, and I'm not too excited about that experience. But anyway, so those are additional areas for money. Now I'm going to get into some of the questions that y'all asked here that were pretty good. Let's see here. Number one is Michael Johnson. Why is voc rehab so different region to region? I tried to work with voc rehab in Chicago. The independent living program does not do anything with farms. Well, I know that the independent living program doesn't seem to do much of anything for anything, as far as I know. You can talk to Liz Butler about that. It's kind of a crapshoot, and that program isn't really well administered by any regional office that I'm aware of. So I have yet to hear a success story about the independent living program. I know they're supposed to pay for all kinds of things and get you all set up, but I also know that they don't usually do that. So then to the other part of that question, why is voc rehab so different region to region? That's another mystery. Nobody's been able to answer me, give me an answer about that, because of the federal program, you would think that then you'd be able to get the same benefit everywhere, but you just don't. I have no idea why. Other than that, each VA regional office is like its own fiefdom, and the head of that regional office is like a king, and he or she gets to do whatever she wants. So there's really no good answer to that, and I haven't been able to find out why VA is so radically different region to region. Nobody knows. It literally is a mystery, which in and of itself to me is mind-boggling because I thought they were a government agency. The next question is done by, I think, Mike Patlock. How do I get a memo rating to get access to VRNE and home loan guarantee? I am still active duty for a little while. My claim was submitted a little while ago, so about 3 months ago. Comp and pension exams are completed and returned to VA from VES. Had my first Chapter 36 meeting on Tuesday. I really need to, okay. What is, Mike, I'm not sure what Chapter 36, are you meaning Chapter 31, or what do you mean? I'm not sure what Chapter 36 is. Counseling only. Yeah, I'm not sure what Chapter 36 means. So right in, pre-voc rehab, okay. So then, how are we going to memo rating to get access to the RNE? And you really shouldn't have a problem, as far as I know, with voc rehab. Director Fanning used to say that you can get into VRNE before you get out of the military. Now, with voc rehab, it sounds like what they're doing is they're waiting for you to get your disability back. And so you're probably trying to get, how do I get an early rating? I'm not sure how to expedite early rating to get a memo rating. I do know that VRNE is supposed to be more proactive than they are as far as letting veterans in the program while they're on active duty, which de facto means that you won't have a disability rating yet. I'm not sure. It's kind of another situation where I think it depends on the regional office that you went to. If they're telling you you're not eligible, fucking just appeal, man. That's what I would do. Just send them a letter that you do not agree with their denial. Send it certified mail, and then see what happens. You know. But if you don't agree and you think you should get in, then make them prove it. You know, send them another letter and start fighting back. Let's see here. So we have that's Mike's. Hang on a second. Let me. See, Wayne Thomas writes, why isn't Congress asking the right questions for making the VA swear in? The second part of that question is, why are they not making the VA swear in 1985 or somewhere in there? They stopped making the VA swear in as some sort of gentleman's agreement, which is obviously totally fucking us. Like I feel like I'm in prison when I deal with the VA. So I think that when it comes to them, well, I'm not really sure. My only thought is that a lot of these congressmen and a lot of the people in the VA all work for the same companies when they're done working in that direction. So there's possibly some sort of outside the loop gentleman's agreement. Whereby they don't want to basically point the finger at each other, because if they do that, then they won't get a job later paying $500,000, I don't know, or $1 million, I'm not sure. That's my only guess, just that there's, some sort of funny business going on, and I wish I had a good answer to that, because it drives me crazy. So Wayne Thomas asked, stated that here you go, it's interesting. So he writes, just wanted to let you know what happened when I contacted VA's IG office about my DC counselor and her supervisor not contacting me. Received an email from the counselor trying to explain to me that she is going to do for me with a, I see, so she CC'd her supervisor. The next day I received a short response from IG's office claiming my case closed, but unable to reopen. But able to reopen within 21 days. No explanation. What was told them? No summary. Okay. So Wayne, what I would do is I would request a copy of your file via FOIA. So I would do a Freedom of Information Act request. I would hand deliver the request to that office, and I would make them date stamp it so that you're able to get your file as quickly as possible. I have some sample FOIA documents on my website, so you can try to use those, see if they work. You just need to make sure that you tailor it to your specific situation. So let's see here. The next question, Julian Stevens. What happens when you have an appeal going over 6 months with voc rehab and no response? Well, the only thing you can do is send them a letter. Generally, if you contact your congressman, they don't fucking do anything for you. Don't kid yourself. It's a very rare day that you ever get your congressman to help you, and usually it only screws up your claim and delays things even more because then the DA gets pissed and so on and so forth. I find Congress to be relatively independent. Every now and again you hear of a story where there is some brave, awesome counselor, or I should say brave congressman who goes against the system and fights for the veteran. I mean, that's like a fairy tale winning the lottery. It just doesn't happen that often. So I don't tend to rely on congressmen. So in your situation, 6 months, I would write a letter, certified mail, with return receipt asking where your claim is at. Because there are two different types of, appeals. You have a notice of disagreement, and then you have an administrative review. And then you also have a formal, appeal. So I guess there's really three. And then you can have a fourth, which is just a casual request for reconsideration, which is, there's really no reg about that. It's just, a letter that you would send asking them to reconsider. Maybe they missed some evidence or something. So that's like a fourth option. So there's all kinds of options, but when the VA is ignoring you, the best thing to do, I find, is to write them a letter, wait maybe 3 weeks, and then if you still don't hear back, then I would file an ethics complaint with the CRCC, and, you may get your counselor fired. So Wayne asks, Wayne, you look like you asked about the licensing group. It's the CRCC. I can't recall exactly what the acronym stands for, but if you just type in the search bar CRCC, you'll see it. Oh, here, the next question. Yeah, you're ahead of me. Commission on Rehabilitation Counselor Certification. Yeah. So just file a complaint with them, and you'll get some stuff rocking and rolling in no time at all. Glenn writes, a couple years ago, there was a list of naval ships and other groups that may have been exposed to Agent Orange during Vietnam, and my ship was on the list. I filed a request to have my VA increased, but have not heard anything back. What do? I am now rated at 30%. So with that type of a situation, if you haven't heard back yet, I would call just to find out where your disagreement is, or your appeal, or whatever it is for benefits, where it is in the system, and odds are it just got lost. So once you can figure that out, then the next step is to read up on different options. When it comes to disability claims, I've been rather unimpressed with our inability to really inspire the VA into action. So I haven't been too terribly impressed with any solution of expediting a disability claim. I mean, it literally is hurry up and wait and don't ask questions. They seem to not really care about what's going on. So then, let's see, I'm going to skip to another question here. Shanta Robinson asks, do you know where I can get a blank medical nexus form for my doctor at the VA? That's an interesting question. I don't know if there's a such thing as a nexus form. Now, when they're talking about a nexus letter, that really is meaning a letter that connects your current condition to an incident in service. And so that's kind of the point of the nexus, is that it's kind of the connective tissue between your bone and your muscle. It's the thing that holds it together. So when it comes to a blank medical nexus form, I'm not really sure if there is one. Maybe you're talking about the disability, what are those called? It's a new disability forms that are specific to each type of disability, where a doctor can fill it out, and if the doctor agrees with your situation, then it's supposedly going to get expedited, and then you'll get a quicker disability. It doesn't always work. So blank medical nexus, I would say to Shanta, I would say that I would search for it as quickly as you can and see if you can find one. I bet you could find a good example of a Nexus letter on Jim Strickland's website, which is vawatchdog.org. I bet that he probably has some Nexus forms on there somewhere, would be my guess. He has more of that stuff than I do on mine. So let's see, next question. Oh, you want a sleep study doctor. Oh, gosh. Well, good luck with the sleep study anyway. The VA fights sleep apnea like tooth and nail. So I'm assuming that's what it's for. They're usually really hard to get sorted out. So Wayne asks, looks like one of the last questions here. Can you tell me the difference between voc rehab and a VRAF, which is better for a disabled veteran and a VM? The answer is it depends. Voc rehab can pay for a lot more, up to a large spectrum of things. As far as I know, you can't do VRAP if you qualify for any other educational program. And as Mike Padlock puts it, VRAP is going away in a year anyway. But VRAP has a higher stipend amount. However, like I said, I don't think you can get into VRAP unless you do not qualify for voc rehab or the GI Bill. So in other words, VRAP is a last-ditch effort, a place of last resort for retraining, and they try to only let me think here. It's generally only going to be for technical training. It's not for academic stuff. So, which is fine if you want to be in, computers or some sort of trade, as far as I know. But the stipend is more, so you might get like $1,300 a month or something like that. Whereas in voc rehab, I only get $700 for myself and my daughter. So Julian writes in, first applied for voc rehab in 2007 when I was in college, but was lied to about 48th on limit, then got denied because I needed one more year. If I get back into voc rehab, will I be eligible for retroactive induction? Good question, and again, the answer is it depends. So I've been hearing a lot of really bizarre stories lately of voc rehab counselors in situations like that approving retroactive induction more readily than they used to. The old rule was that if more than a year had gone by before you filed an appeal or whatever it is, then basically you were screwed. Lately, though, I've been hearing stories of veterans asking for retroactive induction even a few years out from when the denial happened, and the VA would pay the money. So it just depends. I would say that the best bet would be for a hypothetical veteran wanting retroactive induction. If you were, let's see here, how would that work? So if you were waiting for, or I should say in school, and you happen to have prior school to get up to that point before voc rehab let you back in, then voc rehab might, in some situations, pay for the previous education that you had to pay for out of pocket. So I guess that's the only real answer I can come up with. As far as that goes, Wayne asks, I have a few more questions for you. Oh, okay. All right. Otherwise, I think, let's see here. I don't see any other questions, guys. So if you happen to have any, feel free to, send me a quick note, and I'll do my best. Send me an email. Well, here, what I'll do is I'll get a list of all the people that showed up today as far as participants, and I will send you the PowerPoint that I put together that you guys couldn't see, and then I will also repost the audio. So I'll post the audio, and I'll probably I may be able to actually include the PowerPoint into the audio and then put it on YouTube. So maybe that's what I'll do. So anyway, folks, I'm glad that y'all tuned in. I'm going to go have a beer. It's about 7:45 here Central Standard Time. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'm glad that you guys showed up again. And as always, it's a pleasure. Here, Kai, why don't you send me an email about this, and I'll help you. I'll send an answer, okay? Anyway, hope you all have a good one, and I will be sure to forward on the link to this YouTube video. Take care.